I would say that people who are taking in information to create code, right? Analysis, analytics, all that is changing.
Okay.
Right? Very soon the coding will change as well, but not, we're not 100% there yet. I'll tell you that. Nowhere near 100% for generating code, but we are heading that way. We are heading where code doesn't need to be coded. It just needs to be expressed in a more human-like, right, natural language, right, input.
Which is what code looks like, by the way.
Exactly.
And we're back for another episode of the Startup Hustle. This is your host, Matt Watson. Very excited to be joined today by Neelima Paraskar, who's the founder and CEO of Snap IT. They provide different kinds of IT services and training for IT, software developers, all the nerds like us. Before we get started, I do want to remind you, if you need to hire nerds, you can check us out at fullscale.io. We have all sorts of software development services. So does Neelima today. We're talking to her about her company. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt.
Welcome from Kansas. I think we're like 5 miles from each other. Done this in person today.
That probably is true. I'm working from home today, so you're literally a stone throw away.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but you live very close to Taylor Swift as well, right? She lives right down the street from me. The infamous Taylor Swift. The secret is out. Sorry, Swift. Well, excited to have you on the show today. And we actually have similar businesses. We both have professional services businesses. And you have a long background in working in IT. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to start Snap IT?
Thank you, Matt. First off, thank you for having me on this podcast. I appreciate it. I've been hearing your work quite a bit, and it's good to sit down and have this chat. I started my tech career journey after my graduation from master's in computer sciences, and I got my first job here in Kansas City. I got job offers in California, but I'm glad I didn't move. Initially, I didn't like Kansas City very much, but I started to fall in love with this community, and 5 years down the road, had kids, and 15 years in the tech career, had held corporate jobs. The last decade of my corporate career was in IBM. Had global teams with IBM here in the United States, Brazil, Philippines, India, and a few in Mexico. And we were about to start UK, especially with robotic automation processes. So, and after 15 years of being in the tech side, started as a developer, software engineer, went to architecture, team lead, managed people across the globe. I started volunteering actually in Kansas City while I was in IBM. Then I discovered that there is a lot of great talent potential here, hidden right under our nose in that sense. Like I shared before, I felt like I was in a Johnson County bubble when I started volunteering in areas that I saw great talent, great interest in coming into tech. And neither their community leaders, schools, or their parents had, an idea as to how to bring them into tech careers. And that's when I thought maybe I can start working with 10 young adults at a time and hire them into my company as we grow, take on projects that don't need to necessarily place them one-on-one, and under Snap IT's umbrella, grow them and tone them into individuals who will work independently. So that's how it started.
So was your first goal to be a training company, or was it to be like an IT solutions company?
Absolutely. I'd never imagined I'll be a training company. I wanted to hire talent, which is affordable. And I wanted to go see, I did initial interviews for everybody here onshore. I didn't want to do grow offshore for various reasons, but mainly here onshore. It was hard to find engineers. I was competing with Cerner's, Oracle. I mean, not Oracle at that point, but Cerner's and Snap
Yeah.
and Sprints and other big tech companies. And on the other side, if I wanted to hire a junior, the quality in which we were receiving the candidates were pretty not up to the par that we were looking at. So,
So
and then I said, okay, how about I train up the people after hire them?
yeah.
That's how it kind of started initially, where we were training in our. But I realized that I'm paying a lot of those training costs myself for employees who have no reason to stay put after they are completely trained. They
So
may
that
jump off to other
so
place.
that has always been my number one problem is
Yeah,
everybody's a free agent, right?
yeah,
Like you spend all this
exactly.
time, all this money
Yeah,
training somebody, and they can leave at any moment in time. And
absolutely,
when you're
absolutely.
a really small company, that's a big problem, right? If you have 5 employees, 10 employees,
It is a
the
big
the
problem.
the
Yeah.
it's a huge investment, and if one or two of them leave, like you're losing 10 or 20% of your workforce. Now, like at full scale, we have 300 people. It's a little different game because if we lose one or
Yeah.
two, like it's
Yeah.
not as big of a deal. We can
Yeah.
absorb that and
Res-
overcome it, right?
yeah.
But when
And
you're
especially because
very
you're offshore, it's easy to find talent in
But
these
when you're
areas.
a really small company, even offshore, if you're a small company, you lose one or two people, it really affects you a lot. And so that's always one of the challenges is how to train people. But I always joked I was really glad that we're in Kansas City because
Hmm.
we could hire software developers that were pretty good for 80, 100, $120,000 a year. The number's going up now, but you know,
Yeah.
and that
Like
it feels
send them my way.
yeah, if you go to California though, the minimum is like 100, 200,000.
More.
And even then you're not hiring the best people because all the best people already work at Google, Apple, Meta, Facebook, Tesla, all these different companies. Like you're getting the like seconds and thirds that didn't get a job at all those companies, right? Where in
Yes.
Kansas City, you could actually be like the cool company that everybody wants to work at.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So I had concerns, obviously, with that, but I really was not hit by those concerns, to tell you the truth, till about 2020. COVID hit. When people came in, they were very thankful. I mean, they're still thankful for the opportunity. And the market had good enough talent that they're not going after specifically your company. I think a couple different things changed quite a bit for Snap IT, other than the obvious, talent, lack of talent during that 2020 2021. But also we were on Inc. 5000 company. We started getting into that, the area where people were targeting our employees directly.
Yeah.
And it's not just, 10K increase. I remember the developer who didn't have a 4-year degree. She was with us for 2.5 years. And literally, we trained her in the company, and she came out of our trainings. Even though we were paying high, 80K, high end of 80, she was hired. They kept giving her 10K, 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 and 125K. I said, get out. If they're paying you so much, and it's a New York company, and some came from California as well, it's I don't want to stop them, because they become an example of how much these trainings and bringing in this talent could make a difference in others who want to be where they are. So, Matt, to address that, what we did is we slightly changed up our model. There were two issues we were facing. One is our client was saying, well, we could hire them also directly, right? And they would hire them. They would poach our employees, right? It's a fair country. They can go anywhere they want. Instead, we keep them in Snap IT for about 3 to 4 months till they become independent in that scale that we are training. And then we place them with the client, and either they full time hire them directly from there, or they hire for contract to hire
Okay.
and then convert to an employee. So to be able to face that, because we are a small business, I can't invest 40K in somebody's salary and then know that they got a better offer. And I'm
Yeah.
happy for them, but at the same time, it's a financial hit. So
Well, and
what we have
that's
changed is that's how we changed.
well, and I had a similar story in 2018 when we started Full Scale. I had 3 developers, and we were small. We only had like 10 or 12 developers, something like that in Kansas City. I have 3 of them quit all within about 3 or 4 months period because they all got recruited away. One went to
Yeah,
Microsoft, one went to Amazon, and one went
yeah,
somewhere else. And to some sense, I'm like, you know what? Good for you guys. Follow your
yeah,
dream. This is amazing. You wanted to go work for Amazon Web Services. Like, good for you. I get it. Like, that's awesome.
good. Yeah,
But it sucks for me. What am I going to do? And
yeah,
that, honestly, that's where I ended up going the offshore route because, like, man, for the 3 people I lost, I could hire like 10 people, and that
correct.
that
Offshore.
ended up what I did, and that's partly how Full Scale began.
Yeah,
But I'm also a firm believer it takes both. You need local talent, and and you can leverage global talent, together, using them together.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, but one of the things you talked about was trying to hire unconventional talent. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious, are you hiring people that are more rural, or how are you identifying some of that unconventional talent?
So fast forward, post 2020, we pre 2020 we were just in Kansas City, and we had training certifications by Kansas Board of Regents and Missouri's ETPS. It's a certification where a state level certification for our trainings. Now we are in 8 other states. So we are currently in 10 states in the United States where we are certified training provider. What happens is, because we are certified training provider, if they go to a workforce agency in their local areas, because we are already certified in their state, they receive $0 trainings. We get
Okay.
paid, but they don't pay any money. So they get free education for 3 months given. And some workforce agencies are also paying some part of employer, on the job experience training as well.
Okay.
So they get again paid to learn the on the job, the students in our model.
Well,
So what
that's
happens
amazing.
is
That's amazing win-win, and you're able to leverage sort of public
exactly.
funding to help make it happen.
Yeah, so money follows always the student. The student decides where they want to train and how they, which areas they want to train, et cetera, et cetera. But because they have decided, and we are certified trainers in these states, the student pays $0 for our training. And we have intentionally kept our training cost in such a way that the students not only get 100% paid for training, but also sometimes have money left over where they can go to an employer and say that, hey, the workforce agency will pay my salary for
Hmm.
about a month or 2 months. Would you like to test out and bring me as a junior, micro credential service, person? And not everybody is like, no degree at all. A lot of people come in with 2-year associate degree in computer sciences, or maybe 4 years of degree in various other areas,
Right.
maybe communication and some, areas like that. Not necessarily 4-year computer sciences degree, but they come in from different degrees
Right.
and add on technology. And some come with industry experience. And for them, training them, for example, veterans come to us for training in cybersecurity.
Yeah,
When we
that's a great
train up
example.
veterans, exactly. When we train up cybersecurity and we get them prepared for the third party certification as well, that's a killer deal right
So
there.
what? So how much revenue, or not revenue, but how much money will like Kansas or Missouri pay for this like workforce sort of grant per employee?
It's all different for different workforce agencies, but I know that Missouri is a lot more unemployed than Kansas is.
Okay.
So Missouri, workforce the centers get a lot more funding from VOA, like the workforce money. Not as much Kansas.
Okay.
Kansas has less unemployment, but there is always youth trainings,
Right.
youth employment that's coming up. And now Department of Commerce is making sure there's talent ready for technologies that are coming into United States. Like CHIPS Act is bringing in billions of dollars
Right.
worth of retraining and training. So we are able to, best, suit ourselves because we are already certified women-based, minority-based. We've done federal contracts, we've done, grants, work. So we are very well apt for receiving these funds directly or through our partners.
So are you helping people learn, is it just software development or is it other types of IT work, project
Yeah,
management, the QA, like all these
yeah,
kinds of things?
absolutely. So I don't think we have QA, pipeline, not much of interest in QA, but there is a interest on automation instead of QA.
Right.
Automation testing, more like. So yes, so all the skills like, Java, JavaScript, Python, Ruby on Rails, and all these tech skills. That's our main core bread and butter anyway.
Okay.
Um, but most popular non-coding areas are project management, Salesforce, cybersecurity, cyber networking, ITSS, and we are just certifying our AI training program right now, and of course cloud. AWS, we are partners for AWS in cloud computing, so both on the public sector AWS partnership and on the private sector as well. Yeah, we can actually hire as we are getting more contracts for AWS work.
So you're starting to hire people kind of all over the US. And a lot of these people, I guess, are,
Yeah,
as you described, there are people that are career changers and some youth.
exactly.
Um,
At this point, after we started federal contracts, we have a lot of senior engineers and architects that individually work on their contracts. They are not involved in Snap IT's Sprint Lab, is what we call.
okay.
That differentiates us, and it's about 20% of our revenue for the company. It's not a whole lot, but that's what actually funnels. When we are growing, we are able to scale up easily because we train about 100 students a quarter.
Oh, wow.
um, yeah. So there is a lot of that student pool waiting, and we can pick and choose who we can give apprenticeships for and connect them
So
for the
where do all
employers.
those other people go? So if you don't keep
Well,
them,
they
do you
are,
help place them somewhere else?
yeah, we either help workforce agencies to place them in different areas, or we, give their resumes and information to the employers that are hiring. And some of them actually are underemployed in their job. So they pay directly, or they have their employer pay us, and they go on to the next level in the job.
Okay. So you mentioned AI earlier. How do you see AI changing software development?
A lot. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. I really want more diverse, community mix really into AI, developing AI, because it's going to impact, and the impact will be known many, many years later, unfortunately. The way, okay, it's a simple task, right? AI is in pretty much anything we are doing at this point. You speak, you type anything, any data on internet, everything has AI algorithms measuring what we are doing at this point. It's not like blockchain needed infrastructure. So we didn't jump on blockchain because we know the infrastructure that is needed for blockchain to be successful everywhere is not yet ready, but AI is, because computing is. The way we can compute right now has grown exponentially. So because of the computing energy, AI algorithms can crank out data like unbelievable. And this is not new. RPA, I think I mentioned with you, about 9 years back when I left IBM, I was setting up RPA for IBM in United Kingdom. So these were already in place for about a decade now. Now machine learning is coming in, and then AI is coming up. Now, are we looking at the absolute 100% valid data to be able to generate those algorithms? No, not at all. But is the industry going to let go of AI? It definitely won't. But I am also working with federal, agencies, and trying to help and see how we can put some guardrails around.
Well, how do you think
You
it's
know,
affecting the jobs and the talent? Like, does it affect the workforce development you're doing? Like, do you feel like there's people that can maybe do software development now that weren't quite as technical, where before maybe you want people that were a little more technical, thought a little more logically or whatever? Like, do you think the types
Yeah.
of people that can do software development now is changing a little bit?
So I won't go as far as software development yet. I would say
Okay.
that people who are taking in information to create code, right?
Mm.
Analysis, analytics, all that is changing,
Okay.
right? Very soon the coding will change as well, but not, we're not 100% there yet. I'll tell you that. Nowhere near 100% for generating code, but we are heading that way. We are heading where doesn't need to be coded. It just needs to be expressed in a more human like, right, natural language, right, input,
Which is
and
what
that's going to
which is what
change the
code looks
game.
like, by the way.
Exactly. But you need to know how to code a computer,
I
right? Instead of talking to a computer.
what's kind of funny to me as a software developer, people give these examples of like, I put in this crazy prompt into ChatGPT and then it gave me this code. Like, the prompt was more complicated than the code,
Exactly.
right?
But
And
don't we all know software development is the easiest part of the entire software development life cycle?
it
Once you
is.
know the syntax and all that magic of how to write a code, it's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
But what you want out of the code is most difficult. And that's where we spend so much money in,
How to
right? We go back and say, oh, this is not working. The user is asking something. We are creating something. So that's the
Yeah,
game.
it's almost like the difference between being like a chef and a cook, or a high level chef, right? It's like figuring out the right recipe and how this thing is going to taste and how it looks on the plate and all that is like the really really hard part, but potentially like cooking it might be the easy part, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of the same
Um,
way. It's a lot of software development's kind
yeah.
of plumbing.
Yeah, and it'll get there. That the regular coding and algorithms and all that. Like we'll have just like even microservices going from API to microservices, we could see the difference in architectural way of dealing with the code and things like that. So that's always there, and we will always need hardcore developers who can code and maybe even code a lower level languages, right? With
Right.
IoTs coming in, we need, those C's, which we all left, at least I left a while back. Those lower level languages will be coming up as well. My point is, coding is probably not all and be all, like how it is now.
Well, so far I feel like AI is just creating more work for software developers to do because we're creating all of this software to use AI and large language models. And reminder, if you need to hire software developers, you can check us out at Full Scale, whatever your tech stack is, front end, back end, mobile, QA, all the different things. Check us out at fullscale.io. Well, so one of the things I think that's cool about your business as well is you work with your husband. What is it like to work with your significant other in business?
Like my husband working in Snap IT.
Yeah. Is that a challenge or is it really smooth?
It depends, right? Which areas we are dealing with. We have been married for 25 years now, and we know that we are strong, each have our strengths, right? And even though both of us are software developers and engineers, he's more hands-on engineer. He did his bachelor's in computer sciences and master's in computer sciences. I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering and master's in computer sciences. And I've been a developer for the first 5 years of my career. And all after that, took on more leadership roles or solutions architect role and things like that, and I was interacting with executives. He tried to stick as long as he can with the code. He loves to code. He loves to solve problems on computer quite a bit. So we have our areas of expertise. When I hired him into the company, I mainly wanted him to grow the public space. Even though that is what he does mostly, but it's so great to have an architect like him to be able to look at the other side of the company and advise and things like that. So we
So
work
no,
very well together. There are
good.
times that we have to have butt heads, and it's not like anything else, right? And I do that same thing with, like, we have really good constructive conversations with, we have about 6 leaders right now in the company. And if I've hired only yes men, then I have a problem. We have very good conversations. We put strategies in place, and we should be able to express our opinions and take it from there.
Well,
Yeah.
so you
But I have to
mentioned.
say,
Go ahead.
yeah, I have to say, initially, first 5 years when he was not in the company, I just asked him to look away and not look at my 401k savings gone down the drain, not look at my credit cards, not look at my bank statement. So there was a lot of investment that, I said, look away, don't see.
Well,
Yeah.
you mentioned before that you do some government contracts, and that sounds like he helps a lot with those. Tell me what it's like getting government contracts. Is that super hard? Does it take like months or years to win that business? Like, tell us more about that.
It took me, so when I started Snap IT in 2015, I did not immediately register it as a small business or a women's business or a minority business. I was about like maybe 2019 or late mid 2018 is when I started looking at those certifications. All I knew, Matt, was private industry, and private industry truly didn't care you were a woman business or minority business. So I started working. We were already multi-million-dollar company by then, and that's when I said, and I was investing back in the company. I was not really holding anything personally. I was investing 100% into the company, my savings. So when I decided, a lot of nudging from my husband again, because he comes from the federal space and he knows a lot of that, like how the business works. And with my credentials, my experience, and the business has already done a lot of good contracts with this, constant nagging, for lack of better words. I started looking at some of the certifications that took me 1.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Not just the regular women business and all that certification, but we got an 80 certification, and then we went after 80 Stars 3. It's a $50 billion contracting vehicle that's only given at this point close to, I believe, 1,040 companies in all of United States. And these companies have first dibs into $50 billion worth of contracts. That needed best in class. That needed us to show our contracts, show our customer experience, look at our rating and everything. So that took a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of not giving up on, understanding the maze. But in 2021, Snap IT acquired another business, and we kind of catapulted ourselves into federal contracts
Okay.
from there. Because I got all these certifications in 2020. What am I going to do? Everything is shut, closed. Nobody's out there networking, nobody, literally. And by the time the industry knew how to figure this space out, we wasted at least 1.5 years. But luckily, I was already working on acquiring this company. And although they did not have any technology based federal contracts, we utilized their connection, the employees' connection with the contracting officers, and grew our IT space. We started with about 120K small contract, and now we are more than $4.5 million a year, kind of within a couple years, maybe 2-3 years.
So how does that work for those government contracts? Is it like something like every quarter they have new projects need to be done, and it goes out for RFPs to these 1,000 companies, and those 1,000 companies decide who wants to bid on them? Like, how does that even work
Yeah,
with a
so
government contract?
especially with the certifications that we have, the government already interviewed us. Government already went through a lot. We went through a
Yeah.
lot of hoops to get to where we are. And we have proven that we can deliver projects, right? It should be at least $1 million or up projects and things like that. So since we have already gone through all that, we don't need to do RFPs anymore. They could sole source a lot of those contracts directly with the companies that they are already working with. And that is what helped us in that sense. But we've gained other new areas. ever since. And we do RFP also. We do go after RFP contracts too for bigger contracts, but more than for up to 4.5 million, they can sole source.
So you do a lot of work for other companies. Have you ever thought about creating your own software company, like SaaS product or something?
Yeah, we actually did, and we launched it recently, and it's one of the top 10 startups in Kansas City, and is also on Launch KC companies, one of the Launch KC companies for 2024. It's called Lotus TMS. We created transportation management software, specific to intermodal companies. And it was a partnership. It's not 100% owned by Neelima. It's a partnership between the other business owners who were in the industry.
Okay.
And they've had experience for 45 years in being in the industry. They've tested other software and they said this is not working. Intermodal doesn't work this way. So we worked with them, and I brought the technology and they brought the industry knowledge, marketing, and
Yeah.
sales.
Well, one thing you mentioned to me before we were recording was you've had some experience experimenting with some other things, and it sounds like one of your tips was to do what you know, to like stay focused. So does this violate that do what you know?
So I've created my software products, right, in the business. Creating software applications is nothing new for us. The reason I partnered with the other business owners is the very reason, because they know the industry.
Yeah.
I don't, but they do. And they have a majority stake in the company. And we provide technology services through Snap IT. And I own the product right now as in a separate company.
So, but it sounds like from our conversation earlier, did you try doing some other things before that weren't such a great idea?
So no, not a good idea. So we started, it was supposed to be investment, but not really. We opened up a frozen yogurt store before and, tried to do other smaller investments, but that really didn't span out. We didn't know the industry. We didn't know how the people worked in that industry. And it was a mess. Somehow we got ourselves out of it after 15. I think my husband lost a lot of like his 401k, maybe 15 years of savings in 401k
Ouch.
at that point. Yeah, it was painful. And, I say that we got a good experience MBA out of it.
Yeah, I had somebody on the podcast, and he had an MBA from Harvard, and we were talking about how he learned way more from being an entrepreneur for a year or two than his Harvard
Exactly.
MBA. Like real
Yeah.
world lessons on things. It's hard.
Yeah. I went to Stanford for, executive education, and they do prep us for big corporates and like, maybe 100K to $1 billion companies. But for small businesses like us, we have not reached 100 million, I'm sorry, 100 million to a billion, have not reached 100 million. We do have to learn it by falling on our face and getting up. And that's the next reason I said one more is persistence, knowing your skill, stick with your skill or learn, be ready to learn those skills. And then the other side is persistence, not giving up easily. But then when it is time to give up, give it up as soon as you can. Don't, go in steps. So
Yeah.
those were some of my experiences.
Well, do you have any other tips for other entrepreneurs out there as we round out the show today?
Yeah, I was just thinking, entrepreneurs right now are dealing with the most difficult times. The reason is we don't know what we are about to face, right? The face of the challenge is changing pretty much every month. Sometimes it's lack of workforce, sometimes it's lack of technology, expensive market changes, clients not investing in an area that they used to invest and things like that. What I could say is reach out, you know, grab a coffee with somebody who you think you want to follow. And we do that quite a bit in Kansas City. We network quite a bit, but sometimes we don't do enough research and actually learn before we meet them up. And then we are wasting that time for them and for us. So I think quality networking is important, not just knowing people, but actually how did they solve the problem and what are the skills that they needed to grow and develop. So I would say Kansas City is filled with beautiful, lovely people, really there for each other. We need to do a little better job as to educating ourselves and really utilizing our time better.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Again, if you need to hire software developers, you can check us out at Fullscale. Neelima's company also does all sorts of IT solutions. You can check them out. What was your website address again?
snapit.solutions, HTTPS.
All right. Any other way that people should know how to get a hold of you today?
I think LinkedIn is another great area, and I would not suggest cold messaging me. I've at least 100 plus people trying to get connected, but find somebody who knows me
Okay.
and try to connect from there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your time.
All right. Take care.
And good luck with Full Scale.
All right. Thank you.